What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin Show here on the YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, Episode 100. We made it. Did you get your cake? I sent the cake.
I didn't know that was like we made it. Like, are we done? Or this is it?
We're not done. But
okay.
you said early on, if we make it to episode 100, just listen. A lot of these things fizzle out.
I thought you were going to give me a Festival Foods cake. I didn't see that. Did I get Did you send the Festival Foods cake yet?
It's on the way. I was in New York. It's on the way.
Okay,
I was in New York with Pete Lee. Sorry.
You sound like my grandma Collins, who always used to. And God rest her soul, she passed away at like 88. She was born on Flag Day. I always remember when Flag Day is. It's June 14th because that was my girl's birthday. But she always talked about getting there. So at 50 was halfway there. And 75, she's like 3/4 of the way there. So there must be something to be 100 because we're there.
We're there.
And now if we continue on, now we're just those French women that smoke and drink wine and heavy sauces and live to be 118.
We are there, and where the hell are you? This is a very Missouri heavy background. What is going on?
I am in my new office here on the campus of the University of Missouri, at the world's first and oldest journalism school, founded in 1908 by Walter Williams. I'm in one of the old buildings that was renovated. It's great. Yeah, go take it wide again. I've got Barry. Yeah. Look, Barry Alvarez is here. We're still, we're not entirely out of it.
What is the helmet next to that?
That's actually signed by Gail Sayers. I don't know where that came by that. I have some other things though. Look here. It's kind of hidden for now because I don't want to leave it out. But I'll just leave this. Look, I have my key to the city.
Yeah, you got the key to the city. Okay.
So I have the key to the city. So I don't know if it's locked. You're there now, but I still have it. So that's all. We're here in the new. Oh, how about this? I don't know. Have I ever shown you this little nugget? That's the things you find when you move. See that?
Yeah.
That's signed by Kenny Morrow, the defenseman on the team for the Miracle on Ice.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, you should have that. I just got, I have stuff that I just came across.
Right.
It's kind of fun and exciting. So there you go.
We'll have to create a shade or something that we can pull down some Wisconsin helmets. So nothing against the MIZZOU.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, that's all right. I'm here, but I'm Scotty at heart.
Why don't you have a Packer helmet up,
we
John?
have more snow here than Wisconsin. I got here on December 3rd. It snowed 3 times. When the snowblower came off the truck, because I debated, do I need this? People were like, "Oh, you got a snowblower? Isn't that cute?" And I've used it 3 times, Seriously? And the neighbors are like, "Dude, can you bring the snowblower?" So I'm like, "Hey, here we go." So anyway,
we're recording in the off season now. That's great.
We are in the off season. We are now on the clock. Next big event is the draft. My gosh, what a disappointing. A whole season of up and down and kind of choppy play. And you're like, okay, this is where they're going to, we're going to push it together. They're going to do this, even though there's no reason to think this will happen because they haven't yet. And lo and behold, they did not. They couldn't play the worst half. Jordan Love looked terrible, right? He wasn't just kind of, he could be better. He's like Jordan Love just looked terrible.
Really bad.
And I thought he would be the one thing that might have been better on our side than the Eagles had because of what Hurts might have been. Nope. I think if everybody played as mean and hard and as tough as Josh Jacobs, it's a different animal. But I don't know that everybody does like that. That guy plays harder and tougher and meaner than anybody. But everybody should play that way.
Well, bad news. Everybody in the Eagles did play that way.
They got a bunch of dudes, yeah.
Wow, they were.
At some point, you just got to be nasty.
Yeah, they were nasty. They were nasty.
My favorite. Isn't it different? How much different do you feel going into this season as opposed to last off season? Like you want to talk about? Wow. Yeah. Last year, you're like optimism. We should play again tomorrow. We're on the ropes. We're ready to go. Right? Like Jordan Love's got to be better. Pass rush, they got some good things, but that, the pass rush will be better. The idea that we're like, hey, we got a bunch of really good receivers. I think they need a number 1 receiver.
You think Devon?
There's so many things now that we're kind of laid bare there. And
I love watching people lose their minds on the Twitter during the games. And my favorite
because the refs were totally against us.
Oh, yeah. Just right from the beginning. I don't know what you got to do to recover a football other than what we did. But my favorite tweet, it was end of the first half, maybe 30 seconds left. And somebody wrote, Does Matt LaFleur get a bonus for taking timeouts into the locker room? Like, does he?
Get $500 for each one that you save.
Yeah. What the?
Yeah. You can actually use them to buy vowels on Wheel of Fortune. So that's why.
Well, we'll see you here for the draft anyway, J.A. That's going to be exciting in a couple months.
I think we're going to be back. Hopefully be there with some kids from the University of Missouri.
Good
and we'll see what happens.
On to our guest today.
Yes.
J.A. landed a fairly big, this is a big guest. This was a great interview. Tarek Saleh. Where'd you find him? Thanks for finding him, by the way, but where'd you find him?
Well, as you know, anybody that follows Badger football knows, right? Great player, Hall of Famer, Badgers all-time leading leader in sacks, all-time leader in tackles for losses, great defensive end, but he's a Connecticut kid, and I ran into him 20 years ago. 20 years. He was probably, I think he was still playing with the Browns the first time I met him, but he came back in the summers and he'd play in a charity golf event, or he's from in and around the New Haven area and has always been really good, goes back home, helps his community. His folks still live there. Sound familiar? Like, just flip us. Helps his community, really involved, super good guy. I'd see him at the Walter Camp Awards. And then, I'm a live one. Like, dude, I'll talk about the Badgers with everybody. Seriously. And he's a great guy. And just, again, one of these people that is, everybody knows Ron Dane. Everybody knows that, people from the national, the Rose Bowl, first Rose Bowl team. And he played, but he was just a freshman. But went on and had just a fantastic, fantastic career, and is a guy worth knowing, man. So Tarek Saleh, this is a guy you want to know, and this is a guy you're going to go, wow, great Badger, great player.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. Tarek Saleh. Tarek, thanks for being here, man. Good to see you.
Hey, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Great to see you guys. John, we go back a long ways, and I appreciate you having me on your show, finally.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's not, to be guest 100 is big, dude.
That's right.
You want to be guest 79? No. You want to be 103?
That's the story of my life.
No, you want to be 100. You have a place of a position of note within this program inside Wisconsin, dude.
No doubt. You and my mom, you guys are my best ambassadors.
So listen, you cannot become a Wisconsin Hall of Famer unless you get here. Right. And you and I know each other because we've run across each other for years in Connecticut, which is where you're from. So let's move you from Connecticut and get you to Wisconsin. How'd that happen?
Well, it was pretty crazy because, growing up, it was in Connecticut, it was Notre Dame, Penn State, Syracuse, and a little bit of Boston College. And those were the schools that I really wanted to go to. And I just wanted to get an opportunity. And Penn State was the first one to offer me as a junior. And then Boston College and Syracuse did. And then little old Wisconsin, we called it Wisconsin back in the day. And, the only thing I knew is that it was West. And I think I saw an article on Don Davey in the late 80s, early 90s as an academic All-American. And obviously, what an unbelievable career he had. But, that was just a little bit, a glimpse of what it was to me coming from Connecticut. And then having Coach Alvarez recruit me along with his staff. John Palermo was really cool, and it gave me a glimpse into what they had, and they convinced me to come out there. And then you saw the energy that Coach Alvarez had in his staff, and then the kids on the team, they were just regular guys, not a lot of ego, and they were hungry to win. But they weren't to a bowl. They didn't go to a bowl for like 10 years, so there was a lot of work to do, but just getting to know the other guys on the team, the staff, and then the campus. I mean, I went in the dead of winter. It couldn't have been a worse time, but it was such a beautiful campus, and we did that movie Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield. So I learned that was filmed there, and a big fan of the movie. And like it's just if you look up the dictionary college, I think UW Madison is right there with any school in the country. So it had everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'll take a path less traveled. take some risk. I don't think I could articulate that back in the day as well, but I was like, man, I'll run through a wall for Coach Alvarez. So, sign me up.
So this is a different time ago, and the Paterno legacy has changed, is it? I'm hearing you said no to Joe Paterno.
Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do. We came back. I went back to Penn State for a second time because I went to Penn State the first time on an official, and then went to Wisconsin, and I'm like, ooh, Wisconsin really, really impressed me. Let me go back to Penn State just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I went back and I had a good time. Really, enjoyed meeting Coach Paterno, and they had good guys on the team, but not like Wisconsin. And when we came back, we're like, we've got to make a decision because traditionally back then they'd say, hey, listen, signing date is February 15th. It was the end of January, and you could tell everybody wanted to know where you were going. So I'm like, okay, I get it. So then we went back and we just compared the schools, and my heart just took me back to Wisconsin. And when I was making that decision, Joe Serra was at the mailbox outside my house. So he came in. He's the D-line coach for Penn State, and I had to tell him that I'm not going and I'm going to Wisconsin. And then he made me. He called Paterno and put him on the phone, and then I had with a tear in my eye just because I just hard to say no to a legend, and it was tough, but it was the right thing to do, and it worked out. And right away I called Coach Alvarez and Coach Palermo, and we celebrated on the phone, and it was a great feeling, and I'm glad it all worked out.
We are too, actually. Appreciate that. What was it that sealed the deal? Do you remember what Coach Alvarez said that said, yep, I'm doing it?
I just think it was the energy following Notre Dame for those years that they won national championships. And the Frank Stams of the world, Stonebreakers, I watched those guys. I emulated them in high school. And he said, hey, I understand what it takes. And I understand the identity of what it means to be a Badger. I want you to be a Badger, and I want to set up that type of culture that we had in Notre Dame. And Notre Dame had a great balance of talent and tough guys, right? And I kind of fit in between that because I'm not the fastest, tallest, but you bring a lot of heart and you're willing to pay the price and get after it. And that's exactly, a coach is like 45 years old, right? And the whole staff at Penn State, they were in their 60s. Or 50s, I don't know, 50s. No, that's me. But they were older, and I just didn't identify as well with them as I did with what was on at Wisconsin. A short story about this: the recruiting coordinator Rob Ianello, who was great, especially on the phone initially, he put together a package of basically newspaper clippings with my name on it, right? And sent it to me, and it was like, hey, all Big Ten, all American, blah 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 blah, and gave it to my mom, and my mom went nuts because no way you're gonna sell me because on something that he didn't earn yet, right? And it's not, don't do that. And she jumped their ass, and it was kind of funny. She jumped John Palermo's ass, and he's like, all right, no, we were just doing a little bit of marketing and all that, but all the things that were in those articles came true, which is great. But that's as aggressive as it got in terms of recruiting, because all the teams that we were with were all in the up and up, and it was a great experience. But Wisconsin was unfortunate that it all worked out.
So yeah, like I've met your mom before. Just like, what role do your parents have in this? Like, they obviously, the fact that they got you to Notre Dame West Haven, they showed that it was important, not just football. Your folks, and I guess all parents have it in. But your parents seemed, I don't know, intensely interested in the things you had going on.
Yeah, academically in particular, right? My dad came from the Middle East. My mom came from basically a single parent household. Her mother passed away at 2 years old. So they bootstrapped their way through their education. and worked their butts off to get to where they are. They could provide for the family. So sports was always a bonus, right? And it was more like leverage sports to get a degree, to, you know, socialize yourself and just be accountable and be on time. And it wasn't like football, like nobody, especially in Connecticut, right?
Right.
John, nobody's going to the NFL. I mean, we have a lot. For a relatively small state, we do have a lot, but people are poo-pooing you like, there's no way you can go play at a Big Ten school. You better just go to UConn or Villanova and play, one AA football back in the day. And I was like, no, I want to play college football. It wasn't, I want to play in the NFL, because that was, of course, impossible. There being from Connecticut, but my parents supported me from an academic standpoint first, an athletic standpoint. My mother is more the emotional motor, and my dad's more analytical, more pragmatic. So the whole time that we were deciding the colleges, my mom was pacing the house because she knew I was going to be going further away, because she just knew in her heart that I thought Wisconsin was the right fit. And then my dad was just putting all the numbers and the different metrics that we were evaluating. And so we came to that decision, but it was the academic side of it. Penn State's a great school. Wisconsin's a great school. You couldn't, obviously we bias here that Wisconsin's better, but I checked that box in both schools. And so from that standpoint, it was just like, find the best place for you to go. So they always have the right intentions, and I'm grateful for them to be there for me.
And at the end of your freshman year, the granddaddy of them all. Good choice. I think that worked out well.
That was amazing. I mean, my head was spinning, trying to get my feet on the ground every day, because I was, it's about a 200-pound linebacker, and I was playing, and I really didn't have, you go into these big stadiums, and if you're a young player, at least back in the day, your eyes are wide open. You're looking at everything, right? You're looking at the 80,000, and you can't focus. And I had to work my way to focus and get down to the nitty gritty of the technique of playing football. But that first year, I was swimming. So it was tough, but it taught me so much. And the fact that Coach Alvarez and Coach Palermo and Dan McCarney was on the staff, Kevin Cosgrove, they had confidence to put me in and deal with some of the learning curve that I had, because the next 3 years made it so valuable. That experience of playing in the Rose Bowl, playing against, in Tokyo. And then I just kind of learned from all those experiences, and it really paid off.
So yeah, because there's a lot to dig in there. Just the fact that you weren't a redshirted guy, which is hard. So you can tell me, I would like you to be honest. You were redshirted. You were not redshirted because you were superior, or we're like, we need bodies, man. We're still building this thing, and he can play a little bit, so we're not going to redshirt him.
I think it was they needed bodies, and they needed people to just if you could play 10 plays, that's all they wanted out of you. Just play 10 plays, and that there's redshirting and playing. There's benefits to both, but I think Coach Alvarez wanted to bring young guys in and get their feet wet right away and get into the action and get something out of them to help win a championship, whatever we had to do. So it worked out. It worked out for me, and it was such a valuable experience.
So at what point then, because you talked about all the schools that you had, Syracuse or Penn State, all the stuff, which I guess Penn State was in the Big Ten by that time. But still, you look around, and now there's the Ohio State, there's Michigan. There are these programs that are blue bloods that you go through, and there's 80,000 people. The big house has got 100. Like, at what point did you go, okay, I do belong to here. I belong in this field, and I can play. Was there a moment where you got hit by that and you went, I belong here?
Well, I think really cemented it was spring ball. When after going through, there was a play here and there throughout that 93, 94 season where I'm like, I put a pressure on the quarterback and I made a tackle, and that was more instinctive. It wasn't so much that I understood, I had a full grasp of the system. And I was just, at some point you just see the ball and you go tackle it, and your natural ability takes over. But in order for you to be successful, it's got to be that whole combination of understanding the technique, the fundamentals, and your athletic ability. So and then you could play comfortably and things slow down for you. And the light bulb came on in spring ball where you're able to like make adjustments. You're able to be able to see how the tackles, what the stance of the tackle is through to the running back, where you're able to just feel the whole game. I'm not saying I had a full grasp of it, but I did have a much more comfortable feeling for what all that meant. And I'm like, you know what? I can't wait to get going this year. And they started me. And it was awesome. But that freshman year, which how as hard as it was, it really benefited me so much by being in there, taking on that adversity.
Is there something in particular that you remember most about the Rose Bowl? When we talked to Barry about it, he said it was a home game and the red was atrociously awesome. What do you remember?
Yeah, unreal. There was 80,000 Badgers there in a 100,000 seat stadium, right? I mean, amazing.
And 20,000 more in the parking lot who thought they had tickets and didn't get in.
That's right. That's right. The fraud was ridiculous.
Right.
We drank them out of beer. I didn't know that at the time, but the game. But of course, that was in true fashion of being a Badger faithful. That was pretty cool. The experience is that we get to meet Tommy Lasorda, Joe Pesci, Chris Farley, who's always come out. He hung out with us. Earth, Wind, and Fire played at the Big Ten Dinner Champions, which was an epic event. It was just a really cool atmosphere. Coach did a nice job we practiced our ass off, and we got to like sit down and have a nice dinner where the server came over and asked for your order, as opposed to that buffet that you're always in, right? You're always in a buffet fashion when you're feeding 80 guys. But we were able to sit down, and then he had us he rented a pool hall just for us to go hang out, and we were just built more chemistry, camaraderie. And so, Coach, we work hard, play hard, and party hard. So it was we covered all the bases, and it was just a special time.
So it's a long trip to get to Pasadena, but you touched on it. People who heard that you clinched the Rose Bowl. You're playing Michigan State, and you're in Japan.
Oh,
what was that game
magical.
and that flight back like?
Well, on the way there, I don't know if you heard this story, but Barry always looks for an edge, right? He's not looking to give you this speech prior to the game in order to motivate you. He wants the process. He wants to start the week before, set the table for the game, who we're playing, the matchups, what dynamics in there. It might be, here's what the bulletin board material is, and they don't care about you, blah, 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 blah. Well, going to Tokyo, he planned to research NASA, and NASA gave him the blueprint to travel. So to what extent, I don't know, but he did know that we'd have to stay up like 24 hours. And he wanted us, when we reached Tokyo, which was midnight, that we were up. Everybody was up so that we would get a good night's sleep, and we'd wake up and we'd be on their time. And he said, you watch Michigan. We flew on the same plane with Michigan State. I didn't know they had planes big enough, but we flew on that plane. And he basically said, you watch, Michigan State will be sleeping on the way over, and you guys are going to stay up for that reason, so that we are acclimated to Tokyo time. And he was right. And I think we had him beat over the over the Pacific, So it was awesome. And that was one of the masterful kind of get an edge story for Coach Alvarez, is that finding that way to motivate us and position us to win the game. Because Michigan State, they weren't playing for the Rose Bowl, but they had NFL guys all over the field, and they were Jim Miller was a quarterback. The linebackers were loaded, and they had a great running back. I forgot all the names, but they were very good. George Perlis is classic. We had a banquet with like all these people from Japan and our team, And, I think he was having a couple of pops, and he got up there and he goes, well, we don't give a blip about the Badgers. We're going to just kick their butts. And that was just the cherry on top. And then coach all I did is point to it. He goes, guys, are you kidding me? He said he didn't care. He's going to beat our ass. And that was it. And we were just ready to roll. And, we burned the ships, it was there was no choice but to win that game. And, afterwards we stayed up 24 hours. We stopped at some museum or something on the way out. I don't even know. I don't remember what it was, but we did something cultural, and we were on cloud nine. And then we flew in the O'Hare, and as soon as we crossed over in Rockford over to Racine right there, not Racine, that'd be Beloit, and it was people lined the highway, and coming into the stadium, we had 40,000 people in the stadium, and it was raucous. And then we went out all night. It was fantastic. We had a blast, and it was one of the most memorable games for sure.
Leave it to the Godfather to have NASA on speed dial. That's ridiculous.
No question. No question.
Right. More with the Badgers Hall of Famer Tarek Saleh in just a minute. The Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. I feel like with all the college football talk, we should probably talk about my going to be a sophomore son, Rhodey, for a second. By the way, not injured, doing great. I take that back. He's got to have an MRI in his knee. I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, he's on this kick right now, J.A., of chicken, rice, and broccoli, for morning, noon, and night. And it made me think of our guy, Kenny Harrison. That's what he said he ate, chicken, morning, noon, and night. You can only make chicken so many ways. So I go to Festival Foods and the website, right, bestfoods.com, and I type in chicken. Dad's chicken breast they go to a lot, right? But then there's chicken thighs and chicken drummies and half a chicken this and
chicken fingers, airplane chicken, chicken tenders. What do we say? A buffalo wing, which is not made of buffalo, it's made of chicken. There's a lot of so there's a lot of options.
I can tell you right now that the Golden Plump Chicken Thighs family pack doesn't last for the family. Rhodey can put that away fairly quickly.
Yeah, well, but so can you. Look at you. You guys are monstrous.
My point is, if you're on any sort of diet for the new year, whether it's chicken and broccoli and rice like my oldest son, or whatever you're trying to do, we've got some other friends on the carnivore. Have you heard of this? The carnivore diet? Just
no, meat. But at least it sounds self-explanatory.
Yeah, meat only. That's it.
Got nothing wrong with that. Listen, every time, I think I've said this to you before, if not, here it is. I have nothing against people that like to be practicing vegetarians. And I get that they feel like they're really living healthy. What I don't need them to do is talk down to me, right? But here's why vegetarians are great. But you know why I eat a steak? Because every once in a while the cow needs to be reminded who's on top of the food chain. Okay, that's all. Otherwise, because you know what, the world really isn't a Far Side calendar. When I would drive by my car, the cattle don't just stand up and start talking to each other and start, playing Shaska and playing rummy or whatever. No. Okay. So I appreciate the people that would like to eat nothing but vegetables. Good for you.
Happy for you. Well, whatever it is.
I'm the boss, and the Angus cow over here in Kansas that's grazing away, he knows it. I want him to fear me when I'm coming.
Would you eat a cow that came from Kansas?
Yeah.
Well,
why wouldn't you?
You've liked from Kansas so far.
Here's how good you are. I'm eating your people. I am eating your animals.
I'm eating your people.
I'm eating your animals. There you go. Right.
Good.
Go ahead.
Well, all the animals you want, and then some, including the natural and organic section and wine and spirits, all at Festival.
There you go. Okay, good. Are they free range chickens?
They got them. Not all of them, but they got them. Time for another top 5 list here on the Inside Wisconsin Show, presented by our friends at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Discover excellence at Platteville. Their renowned engineering and STEM programs offer a cutting-edge environment with over 60 majors to choose from. With exciting clubs and organizations, there is always fun happening on campus. Discover why UW-Platteville is a smart investment. Apply now, uwplatt.edu. All right, top 5 list. I have an idea. What do you got? What do you got?
Well, I always like to kind of mirror a bit of what's happening on the show. And since we had Tarek, who was such a great kid from Connecticut, and I thought, oh, what about like top 5 athletes or people, Wisconsin, Connecticut connections, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, sure, number 1 obviously would be me. So then I thought, well, that's a horrible idea. We can't do that. And then I thought, well, no, I don't even make honorable mention on the list of people that were there. I don't know, like Orlovsky wouldn't make it, even though he played at UConn because he was on the show, but that's not. But there are just some interesting things that people are like, I don't know if they do remember, don't remember. And a lot of them are UConn connections. Ray Allen, right? Yep. Fabulous Milwaukee Buck, even though he was a champ with other squads. But he went to UConn, even though he's from out east. Karan Butler was a great UConn player. He was from Racine. Vin Baker, another great Buck who played at UHart or Hartford University. He's from Old Saybrook. Natisha Heidemann went to Southwest like I did, played for the Connecticut Sun for a long time. Old school people like my age would remember Eric Torkelson, big number 26 for the Packers, who played half a dozen years in Green Bay. He was a UConn guy. John Dorsey played for the Packers, right? And then was a key front office guy. Right now, listen, he's in the front office of the Lions. Part of the reasons they're good is because John Dorsey's getting them good players. So he's out there. And then one that everybody should know or knows that they know who he is and have no idea who he is. But if you ever look at the picture of Bart Starr and he is beating the Cowboys on the quarterback sneak and he's going into the end zone there, the north end zone, and the guy behind him with his hands up is number 30 is Chuck Mersine, who played most of his careers with the Giants. Lombardi brought him in, and he played a little bit on the team. And Chuck Mersine, number 30, he went to Yale. Smart kid, wicked smart. He's a Yale guy, and he went up like that. Just want to make sure that let the officials know that he was not pushing in Bart Stars. They won that for their 3rd championship. And now we wait to see, by the way, if, in fact, the Chiefs can match the Packers with 3 NFL championships. So we shall see. I don't think so, but that's fine.
I don't think so either.
Anyway, so all that to say I got voted down.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
You're feeling anniversary-ish. You're in the theme of celebration.
The number 1 question I get asked is, what's your favorite episode? Right? Yeah. We've done 100 of these, plus at least 3 slices of cheese, many little interviews and episodes. So I sat down and I wrote down what I think are my top 5 favorite episodes with an honorable mention. And then I went and looked at the list, and I'm like, this is why this is impossible, because I have a lot of
once again, episodes. You have Joe Thomas ranked 38th.
Okay, not true.
Okay.
All right. Here's my top 5 favorite episodes. I'm curious to know where some of these land on your list too, but here we go. Honorable mention, by the way, you're not going to like this. The John Anderson episode was number 6 in Barely. I'm telling you,
that's
a lot of good feedback on that. And
I bribed the judges.
You're welcome. Number 5, Matt Kenseth. He was episode number 6.
Early on, I liked him.
He was a great episode.
He's your guy. Didn't he drive? Like he raced around your block or something in your neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up at going to the racetrack that he started his career at. But sometimes these interviews are not sometimes. A lot of these times interviews are great. However, one thing that you don't see, those viewing and listening and watching, are the conversations we have after. And Matt Kenseth, how long was it, John? 40 minutes? Like we could just sit and crack it.
Stick around, kept going. Yeah, like we could probably have, volume 2. You could have put that in there.
I'll reach out to him. Maybe he'll come back on. Number 4, you were home for this one. Bob Harlan, episode number 48, and we recorded that in the atrium. It was unreal.
Yeah, his atrium. Isn't it the Bob Harlan atrium or whatever? Yeah.
Bob Harlan Plaza.
Cannot overstate his importance to the team, right? Seriously. Cannot overstate.
No, I think we said it that day, and we'll say it since then. He saved the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Really. Door to door. Number 3, speaking of saving Packers, at least on the field, Pepper Burris. Remember that? Golly, I think that's one of my favorite episodes because he invited me over to his house after that.
He's a hoarder.
Yeah. Okay. In the best way possible. The greatest hoarder of all hoarders. You got to go there. Next time you're home, we'll get a hold of Pep and go. The things he has and that he shared with us on that episode.
Yeah.
Nuts. Totally nuts. Number 2, Joe Thomas. Number 2.
So his show is ranked higher than he is as a player.
Oh, I didn't put that together. I should have made it number 5. No, so I guess my favorite part of that episode, I believe you were having a medical procedure or something that day, and you had to join us from the car to begin with.
In the car, yeah.
And it was just me and Joe for a minute. And we talked off the air, and he said to me, "So I hear we have a thing." And I was like, "Oh God, this is great."
Yeah, you should have said, "No, only I have a thing."
Yeah, one of us has a thing, and you're apparently in the middle of it accidentally. And number 1, and this blows people's minds. This has been my answer for 100 episodes now, I guess. My favorite episode was Miss America, Grace Stanke.
Okay.
She was non-sports related, right? Not that that matters, but not business and not necessarily entertainment, but culture in Wisconsin. She was wicked smart. She was unbelievably funny, very informative, and she spoke like one of us, even though she's probably one of the most well-spoken people that we've had on the show. She was fantastic. We tried to FaceTime Miss Wisconsin. Remember that? She didn't pick up, but go back and watch that one. That was a great episode.
Certainly my favorite nuclear physicist or whatever she was that we've had on the show.
Nuclear engineering student? Yeah.
Yeah, she's my favorite nuclear engineer that we've had on the show for sure.
That's when she pops up on my social. She's talking about nuclear power. Wild. She was fantastic. And then I opened up the gamut and was like, and this is why I don't play this game, because all 95 other episodes, unbelievable. Seriously.
Right. So here I am, because I realize that I could just sit here, and you're just like, bing, 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 because you're like, what about Barry Alvarez? Bing. Otherwise, this place never goes anywhere, or what, So it's useful. It's useless. Otherwise, it's just going to be. It's kind of like girl watching in Florida. The last one to go by is always the prettiest. And so as you do you go through the episodes, you're like, oh, you're right. That was John Henson really was funny. Boy, that Kenny Mayne was a hoot. Oh, Nicole Briscoe. So seriously. You're right. So it's so hard to play that game. So I would just tell you, I think your list is perfect.
Thanks. Wow.
There you go.
It up.
Your list is perfect.
First time in 100 episodes you said that.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Joe Thomas, number 2. You're getting closer.
Okay. We're back, the Inside Wisconsin Show. Trevor, J.A., Tarek Saleh of UW football fame, literally Hall of Fame. Tarek, is there a NIL back pay? Because you did some things when you were here at Wisconsin. How did that shake down then in comparison to, man, what is college athletics today?
Well, today it's just crazy, and it's a change, and it's a significant change, and it's really a really difficult challenge today. But back then if you ate a fruit instead of a vegetable, like the NCAA would arrest you and put you in the NCAA jail, and you have to self-report all these things, and they really they failed us. They let this thing get to where it is. I think we could all agree that the players should be compensated, but to not have any structure and the burden you put on these athletic departments is awful. And they just didn't do anything. So here we are, and it's just a crazy world, but we got to accept the change, and everybody's going to move forward. And I thought the playoffs were great this year. And it's, I think football and college football in particular will be successful. It's just, hopefully they can put some structure around this, and we could all be on the same level playing field to a certain degree.
Is there a bagel or a schmear of cream cheese that you'd like to talk about now and get off your chest that you may have taken ill-gotten gains back then?
Well, the bagel was okay, but the cream cheese, that was it.
There were things where that was true. You could take that, but you couldn't do the schmear. Like, that was a real thing.
Well, and the poor softball coach that plays the doubleheader, and you feed the kids, all day, and then you're on the way home, and you're like, I can't feed you because I went through my 3-meal max. I mean, it's so upsetting. I don't like, listen, we want everyone to be successful and the NCAA to be successful to a certain degree, but just the dereliction of putting this together. Like I would have, if I was them, I would have had a in-kind trade early on, and then put together a whole compensation deal where we could get to at least a market that we can understand. We just don't know the market. There's no limit, I think, to NIL
None.
in 24.
None.
25, is there? Maybe is there?
There's no.
What's the $20 million
all I know is
allocation?
that you guys originally, like when they went to full cost of attendance, that seemed like a windfall,
No
right?
question.
If you'd have gotten that, you could have flown home to Connecticut and they would have paid for it instead of hitchhiking or whatever you had to do to get back. So, hey,
well, go ahead.
No, please finish.
No, I'm just saying, kids. With I was fortunate enough that my dad was able to support me in college, but other guys, the taking loans out, and we everything was a real difficult haul just to be able to do things, and some guys not having coats, and it's just ridiculous the things that people had to do back in the day where they could have just made this all a much better experience. But you know what, I enjoyed it. I don't expect any back pay or anything like that, and I just hope they get it squared away and we can move forward.
So you are, as we mentioned, you're in the Rose Bowl your freshman year. You're kind of a ground floor guy. You're a Alvarez foundational kind of piece of this thing. And yet most career sacks, number one, most tackles for loss. Like those things have survived 30 years and some really good ass players that have come through. Like, do you ever look at that and go like, how is this still here?
Well, I know, when guys get close, I go and sell them on the NFL. It's just a great experience. Like JJ, listen, you need to go, and he does. He did, and and then I got to keep making my donations, right? And if I make a donation, then they'll keep that number right. But no, but that was special that I had those records because I have those. That's right. I have those records because there's a lot of guys that played hard, and got a lot of guys that deserve to be there. And then, the records are the records, and they stand, and I'm proud of that. And so, if I was to, I don't know, defend myself, I'd say, hey, there it is. So, I think I deserve to be in it, and that's it. So I'm grateful.
You're in it.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity,
it was special.
If you were to rank Darrell Bevel in the best Badgers to ever play category, where would you put him, knowing that you played with him?
Well, the impact that he had, he's one of the most impactful players, and we're all not great athletes and all that stuff. So we all kind of did it with our will, and he willed his way. There's guys with better arms and run faster, but he is so smart, and he worked his butt off, and for that reason I would put him up there with the best, because the body of work that he did, and walking on water in that Rose Bowl. He ran like 100 yards to get 20, and I don't know how he did it. It was like Forrest Gump when he was headed towards the sideline, and the coach is going, Bear Bryant's going, no, that way, and he had to go that way to avoid people, and he high stepped, and unbelievable. But his body of work is up there in terms of quarterbacks. You got to put him up there in the top 5 guys.
What about just all together? If you were to give him a number of 4, 1, 5, 30, what is it?
Well, that's a good question.
Understand that 38th is already taken by Joe Thomas. 38th. Trevor thinks Joe Thomas is the 38th best player ever to play in Wisconsin.
That's not true.
38th.
What are the metrics that we're looking at? Because there
are none. Just time. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I put him in the top 20 of guys that made impacts.
Yeah.
How about Joe? What do you think of Joe?
Joe Thomas?
Yeah.
Oh man, he's a freak, man. He is, in terms of impact and player ability. He might be number one. He's unbelievable. So he his kids are about the same age as my younger daughter, and we had this. We were at a swim meet, and the swim meet was the parents against the kids, and he was swimming against his kids. The guy jumped off the starting board, and he swam the whole length underwater, and he came up like 2 strokes away from the wall, and beat his kids by by 20 yards. I mean, he was a fish. I'm like, how does a guy that's 6'6", he's like 265, ripped, swim like a fish? I mean, he's a freak. Everything he does well, and he's a great dude too.
Just
Just
as a
like
follow-
just
so
like
you had-
Pebble.
So you kind of had him maybe in your top one, though. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just juggle check.
Top one.
So he was good. Listen, you played against some ballers. Did you have to go up against like Orlando Pace? Because I feel like that's a bad Saturday afternoon.
Orlando Pace. Well, I tell you about that. They had
Ross
had
Verba. Did you go against Ross?
Yeah,
too?
Ross Verba.
Wow.
Ross Verba. Yep. I'm trying to think of the other guys that were.
Runyon was a good player.
Runyon was great. You bet. Terrell Jenkins. Remember, he was on the other side, and Runyon was on one side. The tight ends. Dudley, Rearsma. I played against Matt Lepsis, who played a lot.
Pace. Did you ever?
Pace. Yeah, well, God bless the guy that was the other tackle there at the time. He passed away, R.I.P. And I don't remember his name, but he was the best offensive lineman in the Big Ten, and we were so worried about him. We were scouting that game at my sophomore year, and then all of a sudden, this other guy was running down the field, and there was a second guy, and that was Orlando. And Orlando jumped over one of the defenders to block another guy. It was the most amazing block, and he was only like a redshirt freshman or something. And he is, arguably the best player that I ever played against. Just unbelievable, and a really good dude. And through Walter Camp, I got to meet him. He was a roommate of mine one year. I remember my dad standing on the bed, or my mom tying his tie. He was so tall. But there were some great players. Who's the running back for Ohio State? The big 27
back then? Eddie George.
Eddie George was one of the greatest players that I've ever seen. I mean, and he, we were in battles with them, and he'd always take over at the end of the game. He's special.
Like, I feel like you guys had sort of parallel careers. Pete Monty came in together. Fred, like, what was Pete like?
Well, yeah, Pete is unbelievable. He's one of my closest friends. He was a great player. He's all-time leading tackler. I think he's definitely a Hall of Famer. He needs to be. He's not yet, but he should be. He's a two-time captain. He made like the last tackle in the Rose Bowl. He played his butt off, and then played with the New York Giants. Played in the Super Bowl. Great leader, a great person. And we did a lot of things together. And we still do. We hang out a lot. So just a great guy.
What's a guy like you still doing in Wisconsin?
I thought about it early on, when I retired in 2002, I was like, there's Connecticut, Cleveland, who I loved Cleveland. I spent 3 years there, had some great friends there, but I thought Wisconsin was a good place to kind of regroup. I might have had a chance to continue to play, but God's will, it didn't happen. It was probably for the better. And I thought Wisconsin I enjoyed my college career. I had a great network there, and it served me well. I mean, just great people here. Wisconsin's my kind of town. I mean, kind of like Cleveland was, they love football. Green Bay, similar in the NFL world. But friends all over the state of Wisconsin, and just an awesome place to live and raise your family.
So I got a couple of them. I don't know where we are in the clock, but I'm going to ask them anyway. First off, Trevor brought up his name. Like, did you abuse McIntosh when he was a freshman, the guy who's now the AD there?
No. I got after him, but he's a competitor, right? And he has a lot of talent. And we needed guys. We needed him. And yes, I did go hard, and I might have, harassed him a little bit, but it was just to get him going. But at the end, I mean, there was one, he Popeyed me basically. He said that he could stand all he could stand, and he ended up. This was at the end of one practice, and the team drills get really competitive. We start going at it, and now we're throwing fists. But he picked me up, and he was a wrestler, and he basically body slammed me, and he had enough. And he at that point, he really raised his credibility, and. He was a dude, and I loved it. And he went on to be, two-time captain. He won 2 Rose Bowls. I mean, his legacy is unbelievable, and he's, obviously a Hall of Famer, and he was a first-round pick. Just a great ambassador and a great athletic director for us. And he's following big shoes, but he's done a good job in a very difficult environment. With NIL and the pandemic and all the other challenges. He's done a great job.
He also hired the current football coach. Give me your thoughts on Fickle after 2 seasons.
Well, Luke was an Ohio State Buckeye. He's part of those silver bullet defensive guys, Vrabel, Finkus, and all this. He's same age as me. Great guy. Obviously it's not what we wanted in terms of the results that we've had, but he's working through that. He's making changes. He's embraced the Badger community, and I think it's the challenges that NIL have brought have, I think, kind of contributed to some of the challenges that we have, and he's working through it, and he made a remarkable turnaround on this NIL deal where like the talent that he's brought in seems like it's at least going to put us in a competitive place next year, but there's a lot of work to be done. He's got to integrate a new offense coordinator and get some younger guys to play, and we'll go after it. But he has that mentality. He's a wrestler. He's a tough guy, smart guy. He works his butt off, and he wants to win, so bad. So I know his heart's in the right place. The results aren't what he wanted, but they're out and they're hungry, recruiting their butts off. We got 5 kids from the state of Wisconsin coming in the 25 class. So he's maintaining that wall we'd like to have in keeping our in-state kids. And then I think he's establishing his identity. And I think that was a big thing that I think people question, that what is the identity of the team? But I think he's starting to establish that. And, we'll have to get after it. Next year, man. The schedule's really hard. So we're going to need a huge effort.
All right. That's segment 2. We're back to wrap it up. Just a second. The Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. Hey, congrats on all the snow in Missouri. You're welcome. You can have it. Keep it. Cold. Seriously.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And by the way, cold.
Is it cold?
Oh, so part of their plowing theory is if we just plow it out of the main streets, Mother Nature will just melt the rest. This is the civic plan here in Columbia, Missouri. Okay, this is a lot of places kind of south. We're like, okay, we take the one plow out, we'll get a bunch of that done, and then the rest, well, that just when it goes. The problem is the whole polar vortex. Whatever it is, it hasn't been above 25 in 2 weeks, and it's not going to be above 25 for another 2 weeks.
Oh, 25. It was 11 this morning here.
Hold on. That's the high, right? It's been down in the teens, the single digits. I looked at the forecast. The first day of class that I have, it's scheduled to be -1 that morning and get up to 12. So, 20. But my point is that, it's just, it's cold. So suddenly nothing melts. And now you're just driving over it sounds like you're, it is. It sounds like you're driving over seashells and ice, and it's terrible. But God bless them. Well, spring's coming.
It doesn't freeze, though. Pocket beers. Pocket beers of Miller Lite. So Pete Lee and I go to the game with you, and it was cold. And we all had on the big stuff. And
sure.
Pete and I found a way to just hang on to beers to make sure we didn't run out. Pocket beers of Miller Lite.
We had a lot, though. He had like the cargo pants of fucking beers when he came through.
Yeah, well, he can. At least it wasn't.
Listen, it was so cold here that if you had a Miller Lite, I ventured to guess it would have frozen. So I left the garage door open as I was snowballing. I'm out there snowballing, and I had a soda, a cola, and I had it sitting there, and I did so. I came back, and it was frozen solid. Now I realize alcohol a little lower, but that's how cold it's been. And I thought, and I did think, I got a Miller Lite. I could pop that out there. And then I thought, this is me, because sometimes I'm not exactly a dope. Sometimes I'm pretty sharp. I'm thinking, you know what? How about not beer and heavy machinery and a snowball? How about no?
That's not heavy machinery,
right? But snowblower. Listen, people have snowblower accidents all. Listen, we talked to the Aaron's fellow.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we'll just leave that, and when we get done, that'll be a cool refreshment for the day.
And the cool refreshment of choice when it's cool outside is Miller Lite.
Giddy up.
Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find delivery options near you, or you can pick it up anywhere that sells beer. You can pick up Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that sells beer. It tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Pocket beers for the win.
Mm-hmm.
Back to wrap it up. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, Tarek Saleh, Hall of Famer, Badger, football. 2 for me, then the ever-famous lightning round with John Anderson. What are you doing now? Radio? TV? Are you in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame? What are you up to?
No. Well, I do a show with Derek Engler and Coach Alvarez on ESPN 100.5 here in Wisconsin. It's a Great Dane huddle. We go to a different Great Dane every week. We're in Fitchburg today, and we talk football, talk Badgers, and we have a lot of fun. And then I work with the Berkey Company, which is part of the Cushman and Wakefield affiliate for real estate as an advisor. So we do a lot of industrial and development and stuff like that. So it's been a great experience.
You've been in Wisconsin for a minute now, played here, live here. I believe you have a daughter at the school.
Yes, I do.
Have we won you over? Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks? Are you in on all of them, or do you still lie with somebody outside?
No, I'm in with all of them. I'm rooting hard for them, and I've been here 20 something years, and if you take college with 26 years, but 6 years, it wasn't 6 years for college, but I came here after. I don't know what it was, but anyways, it's been, and I love it. I love the Packers. I learned early in college, like we would go and beat, like early in the season and beat like Ball State, and then I was fired up. Monday, I'm ready to go to class and like go, hey, how about that win against Ball State? But then everyone's depressed, and I'm like, what's wrong? Well, the Packers lost, so nobody was, and I learned quickly, like, oh my God, like, you gonna be okay? Like the sadness was nothing like I've ever seen. So I learned quickly to love the Packers, and to see the Bucks do well, and the Brewers have been consistent, but we gotta take that next step there. Big fan of Wisconsin sports, and I still have a little soft spot for Cleveland and Carolina, but it's nothing like when you're here and everybody loves the Packers in particular. It's exciting. Yesterday was tough, obviously. So we got to get tougher, man. And so this is one thing I would say. I get all the injuries and I get whatever is going on, but I just saw a lack of toughness, and it was in the trenches. Starts in the trenches, and it's just, that's the thing I would challenge Coach LaFleur on is, whatever you do, I trust that he knows football. I trust Gutekunst now. I mean, he's done a great job, but we need to instill the toughness that you see with Philadelphia, you see with Detroit. And I know it doesn't mean they're going to win, every game, but I felt like they just got physically beat up and they were a little soft. And it's not, for an old school football guy, it really was disheartening.
That is said with the disdain of a defensive lineman, which I love.
Right.
Great.
Where's my guy, Rashawn Gary? I mean, he gets a coverage sack and we don't see him again. Like, You need an Amber Alert for the guy. Like, what's going on? Like,
Milk
Van
carton.
Ness, where's Van Ness? He's the first round pick. Like, where these guys? They need to get.
Lucas Van Ness might be the most important guy in the defense, according to Trav.
Honestly, I thought he was, because I didn't think Gary was going to show up, and I thought Van Ness would. I was wrong. First time ever on the show. Anyway, lightning round.
Okay, we'll go through these.
All right.
Although this one you can take your time on. Usually we go through pretty quick. But first, because we've just kind of touched on it, an outstanding, like your Badger legend. You go to the pros. 5 seasons is a pretty good career because most people make it about 3. Tell us just a little bit about your time in Cleveland and in Carolina, and you're a defensive guy and you end up a fullback. Like, what was the league like?
Oh, it's crazy. I love the camaraderie and I love the game day. 2 days training camp was as hard as any other one. Even though Coach Alvarez had tough ones, but the NFL training camp went so long. I've said this before. It was a combination of 2 institutions I never served, but I had heard about it. It was the military and prison. You've got the toughness of what I think prison is like. You see on TV where you're territorial. You have all these guys that are trying to take your job, and you got to have this inherent toughness, this will to get through training camp and to make the team. And then you have all the parts of what you hear in the military, the toughness, the discipline, dependability, all those things, the heart, all those things that makes our military so great. So every year I felt like I was in the bottom 10%, and I felt like I had to do everything in my power to compete and add value and to serve whatever role. A lot of that was special teams, backing up guys, and training camps were miserable for me. But in Carolina, so I was drafted there in '97, and I played behind guys like Mike Barrow, Lamar Lathan, Ronaldo Turnbull, Kevin Green, and I loved all those guys, and it was just really cool to watch. Vic Fangio was our defense coordinator. It was with Philadelphia, and he was as smart, obviously, then as he is now. I mean, he ran a great defense. Dom Capers was kind of the architect who was our head coach, and he came from Pittsburgh with all those great Pittsburgh defenses, and so that was really cool. And I was a fan. Sam Mills was there. R.I.P. Sam. Sam Mills was unbelievable. He was our middle linebacker, and then the next year he was the inside linebacker coach. So that was cool. So it was just a lot of fun. Unfortunately, Capers got fired. I got put on the unprotected list, but that was a blessing because Cleveland picked me up, and I loved Cleveland. And not to say I didn't love the Panthers, but Charlotte isn't as big a football town as Cleveland. Cleveland was like, man, I'm back in the Midwest, back in the Big Ten country, and to be there was awesome. So I go in, and they changed the defense. It was in Carolina we were 3-4, and I was a traditional edge rusher, kind of like Herbig and Watt with Pittsburgh, and they put the 4-3 in, so I was playing middle linebacker, and it just wasn't working. You kind of hear the coaches yelling at me, and I just was another position, and I felt like it was gonna. I was going to get cut, but one of the coaches, a guy named Billy Davis, said that I played scout team fullback, which I did in Carolina, and they gave me a chance to do that. And then I made the team as a special teamer, and then played 2 years at fullback. And then Butch came in, and they put me back at linebacker, and that was fine. And got to play linebacker again. But playing fullback allowed me to understand the middle linebacker a little bit better, the position, and it was good. But that was it after 5 years. And like your body's taking such a toll that it was a blessing, even though I didn't at the time want to retire, but just the way it worked.
All right, we'll go quicker through these real quick. As a defensive guy, how do you feel about kickers?
Kickers, don't like kickers, but I played with some kickers that I like. John Hall was a great kicker for us, and he was awesome.
Okay,
but we can't. We could let them in the family, but we can't love them. You know what I mean? No.
Your last order at Mickey's in Madison.
Oh God, just the big scrambler. That was the last one. Last time I was there, big scrambler. A lot of cholesterol. That's for sure.
Trev doesn't know this place, but I do. Last order at Maury's when you're in New Haven.
Maury's. Oh man, it was a steak for sure. I had great memories growing up. My dad went to Yale, and that was one of our fixtures. We loved going there, and it was a lot of fun. Great seeing the Whiff and Poofs there. It was the Glee Club, famous Glee Club, and they passed that jug around, and
Yeah.
it's a great place. Love New Haven food. I talk about it a lot here. Pizza capital of the world. Dave Portnoy will back me up on that, and it's a great place.
Trev, you may know this one too. Since Tar, you were first team All Big Ten in '95 and '96. What Ohio State defensive lineman was second team All Conference those 2 seasons?
Not sure.
Luke Fickell.
Yep, I knew that.
Oh man,
Who was the quarterback you took down for your 33rd and final sack? Do you remember?
oh my gosh, would it wasn't
I don't
Tony
know.
Banks, was it?
I have no idea.
I
I'm
wouldn't.
asking you.
It could be Tony Banks, but
Okay.
we might have played Illinois, which I don't remember the quarterback's name at the end of the season. They didn't count the bowl game. I don't even know if I had how many bowl sacks I had, but I know I had maybe 1 or 2.
All right.
But anyways,
Good. So you've
all
got
good.
the sack record. What's your favorite album?
My favorite album, man, the I, the the Eagles iconic record. What is that? Oh God,
Well,
I
their
don't.
greatest hits sold a ton. Hotel California was
California,
gigantic.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Tell me again where you think Joe Thomas rates on the all-time list of great Badgers.
I'm gonna go number
Maybe-
1.
Yeah, I think you're number 1. Okay, good. At any point, I'm trying to impose what's happening in 2025 to your career. At any point, if the transfer portal had been a thing, would you have entertained that idea?
Jeez, that is so tough. I'd like to say no, I wouldn't, but I
Good.
might have.
Mm-hmm.
You'd probably just look and see what's out there in terms of the comparison. But I would hate to have done that. That would have been awful. It would have been a terrible decision. I don't think I would have done it. And if I did want to do it, I don't think my parents would let me do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying they could stop me, but you know what I mean? I'd listen to them. And it's just there,
Mhm.
let me just put the stat out to you. A majority of guys who play in the NFL are broke. Okay. These guys, and you take I think it's 60% of the guys who play 6 years or more are broke. So to go to Louisville or wherever for $200,000 or $300,000, I get it. I know why you want to do it, but in the end, like the relationships you have at the college that you're in, ideally should be the path you go down because that's where you potentially could get employed later through the relationships. But having said that, I totally get why guys are doing what they're doing,
Sure.
and I'm not begrudging anybody for that. But if you could pause for a second, understand those relationships are critical. But again, I can't fault a young man for taking advantage of what he or she thinks is best for them.
Favorite Barry Alvarez saying or piece of advice?
Don't flinch.
Good.
The second one would be find a way. So just find a way. If whether it's a lot of times kids go to the high school to lift maybe, and the door's closed. Well, don't just turn around and leave. Find a way to get in the gym and break into it if you have to. I'm not condoning that, but do what you got to do. One story. I got a holding penalty in Carolina. Brad Seeley was a special teams coach. The next Saturday, I had to bring in donuts. It was a holiday. Everything's closed down south. Everybody knows that, right? During the holidays. And I was not going to come to work without donuts, especially I was a young, rookie. I was on the highway. I saw a little Betty truck. I drove up 70 miles an hour next to it, and I had a bunch of cash in my hand. I basically hijacked the bus or whatever, the truck. I had him pull over, and I just said, "Hey, man, this is my situation. If I don't come, the team's gonna be mad." And he was so cool. He had the injected molded crates, with all the little Twinkies and different things. And then, I've tipped the security guard, everybody helped bring all these in, and I had it all out in like a buffet style. I mean, it was the greatest recovery. And I know Coach Seeley knew it. He knew everything was closed, and he's like, I'm setting this guy up. He's gonna get his ass kicked by his teammates for not delivering. And I delivered. So find a way. And that's, I heard that, and Barry was in the back of my head. You find a way. And you got to.
I was going to ask your best living off campus story, but the one you just told trumps that. Thing Wisconsin visitors should see in Connecticut.
Oh, well, the pizza joints, Sally's, Pepe's, Modern, and go rate them and hang out. And then there's just food on top of food. That I could go, we could go to the Owl Shop too, have a cigar. But the nightlife and the food in New Haven is fantastic.
Thing in Connecticut, those visitors should see when you bring them to Madison.
Wow. Well, you get the Union, which is great. You got a Badger football game, which is arguably one of the best in the country. I think at least top 10, maybe top 5. And then obviously just the state has a lot of great natural resources and a lot of good people. So you got to go to a supper club too. Supper club is critical. Get a brat, and get an old fashioned. So
there you go. Better number 42. You or TJ Watt?
TJ Watt.
He's not where you are in the record books.
No, he's not. You know what? He was hurt a lot, so I don't know. You however you put that. I guess I was a better college player, but you gotta play, right? If you play, then you probably would have been better, but he wasn't able to play. But I think he did okay for himself. So
he's hung in there.
There's no
he found a way.
Sale.
Good for him. He's found a way.
No GoFundMe page for him.
I looked at your Hall of Fame picture. You're in your red Badger jacket and you have hair. When did you finally flock up the geese and let them go away?
Well, it was probably like 15 years ago, but I needed a therapist, because every time you put your helmet on and you can see all your soldiers in your helmet, it was just like you just go back to your buddies, Pete Monty, like, Pete, what's going on? I'm like crying to see this unfold in real time. It was, and then I was just like, hey, listen, I just got to get it over with, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Trevor, right? And just live your best you, right? And that's it. Yep. So now I just shave it, save money, time.
Yep. Sometimes you and my man Van Pelt, just like sometimes you just got to flock them up and let them fly off. That's the thing. I need to know. Trevor talked about your daughter. She's on the University of Wisconsin track team. Name me the 7 events in the heptathlon.
Boy, oh boy! All right, so you get the 100-meter hurdle.
First event. Good job.
Okay. Then you have the 400.
Not an event. No.
800 for sure. 800.
That's the last event. Now we're looking for the 5 in between.
Okay. We have the high jump, long jump.
Yep.
Javelin.
Yep.
Where am I at right now?
You're at 5. You're missing the last 2 on the first day.
Okay. We got the hurdles. We got the
hurdle, high jump.
200.
That's the last one in the. So yep.
But there's an 800 in there, isn't there? You already got that.
First day is hurdles, high jump, something 200. Second day you had it right. Long jump, javelin, 800. You're just missing the
shot
one.
Put.
There you go. You got to toss something. Excellent. Last one, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Who's going to be the national champ?
Well, my heart's with Notre Dame. Joe Rudolph is the offensive line coach, a teammate, unbelievable coach. Are we doing points or are we just?
Nope. I just wonder who's going to win. I don't care. Who's winning?
Well, I think Ohio State's going to. I think Notre Dame's a little banged up right now, and I'm worried about that. Having said that, I'm betting Notre Dame, and you take that, for what it is. But I wouldn't be surprised. What I think Notre Dame has, they've got a great defense. I think the secondary could play with those guys if anybody can. So if the front could get some pass rush and they get some timely turnovers, they got a shot. I mean, but Ohio State is unbelievable. Henderson, you see him. He took all the air out of the room with that penalty, and then he comes back and runs down the sideline. I mean, he's so fast. He's so fast. They get so much talent. It's tough to beat.
It's also for Wisconsin guys tough to pick. It's tough to pick Ohio State.
Yeah.
And for a guy who went to Notre Dame, high school, Notre Dame West, like who are you going to pick? Like that seems like where it's at. Tarek, man, thanks for coming on and being guest number 100. We won't explain to people why you moved up in the lineup from 101 to 100. We don't want to embarrass anybody.
Well, you called like another 100 people to get to me, but that's all right. So don't make that public.
Listen, no. Alvarez is 1, you're 100. I feel like what a bookend of the Inside Wisconsin show. Those are great bookends. 2 great Badgers, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, John.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
It is always those guys that are off the beaten path a little bit that are the best interviews. I've probably said that a dozen times over the last 100 episode, but I believe it. He was great. Really good get.
Yeah, listen, Tarek's great. He's a super nice guy. I've gotten to know him because of my time in Connecticut, and he did these things with the Walter Camp. And so there's so many unique things. And he is one of those guys. He was foundational. But because he wasn't kind of Ron Dane and they had all those running backs, you know, he wasn't like the Watts that went on to this great fame in the NFL. But you forget, like for 30 years, that guy's been the leading sacker, leading guy in terms of tackles for loss. He's twice all Big Ten. He was an All-American. Like he had an unbelievable career. He's just not one of the guys that comes right off the top of your head. But as you can tell, dude's got stories. And I love the guys with the stories and the secrets. And, you know,
NASA.
And so he kind of has, right. And, you know, Barry's like making that up. Right. Like somebody has told him he should stay up. That's good advice. But to make sure he sold it to the guys, he's like, listen, I've been talking to the people down there at Cape Canaveral, man. And these guys say, stay up, you know, and even if it's wrong, he's convinced them that the other team is sleeping on him. Like, dude, look at those guys are just, you know, it's all part of the masterful, you know, part of all of it. And yeah, he's just a good guy and still associated with the program. And the only problem with people that played at Wisconsin is, you know, because if you go to somebody and say, well, I'm a Yankee fan. If you cut me open, I bleed blue. Or if I'm a Packer fan, I open up, it's green.
Gringo.
The Wisconsin guy, you cut me up, I bleed red. Yeah, you do, as we all do. So but they really do. But and people, since you have access to the interwebs, that's a thing, especially if you're watching this. Look up Tarek Saleh and Badger Hall of Fame, because his picture on his Hall of Fame page is great. He's in the red blazers that they all took. A neck just, like size 20 neck. No, he does. It just goes up to his ears, you know?
Yeah.
And then he's got the full salad and he's, you know, but listen, a good guy. And he is, right? I guess I look at that and hear what you say. And I think, that's the show, right? That's this show. Here's people that you should know. Some are super prominent. Some are less prominent that had great careers. They have stories. They are Badgers. They are Wisconsin people. And I think he is kind of maybe like he represents what at least I think or what I hope we strive the show to be.
100%. Speaking of what we strive to be, usually this is the John Wisconsin segment, but we want to give a little bit of time and pass our well wishes to everybody out in California and specifically our guy, Pete Lee. Did you see him on the Tonight Show the other night? He lost his house.
Saw Pete Lee and Pete, as so many of the people, you know, Tarek being the 100th, so many people on this show have come on as guests and, you know, the old kind of fun thing, friends of the show, and have become just friends. Yeah. And Pete's a little like that, you know, here, would you like a pocket beer?
That happened.
I know you are tighter with him, but I have a wealth of, I didn't realize how many people I knew until somebody said, hey, have you talked to your people in California? Like, ooh, I should. And so I sent one out to John Henson. And then I sent one out to kind of a dear friend of mine, Ignacio Arenas, who's out there. And then I thought, ooh, I should text White Stones. And then I think, oh, well, then Ian Bush, who's went to Marquette and was one of the great comedy producers on Wipeout, or Matt Kunitz. And I think, oh my gosh, Chidi Imo and Victor Edit, who are 2 teammates of mine from Nigeria that live in Los Angeles. Dennis Mitchelltree, who was a high school classmate of mine who went to school in Boston, Berkeley. He's a saxophone player, wonderful musicians out there. Dave Cooley, one of my dear, dear friends, also Green Bay Southwest, who is out there. And I'm thinking about him, and a guy named Kevin Wernberg, who for the longest time was one of the drivers behind all the logistics of Wipeout, and who owns Stonehenge Golf Course up in Door County. I don't know if you knew that. So all these people, and especially ones, like I said, who have Wisconsin ties, which would be, Kevin and Dennis Mitchell-Tree and Dave. And then to think about Pete, because they don't have the platform that Pete did to show up on tonight's show. And I know you were there, and to hear him talk about, when I left, I had a house and now I don't. And it is wrought with devastation. And if you could just take all the political BS out of either side of that and just go, human beings have had their lives devastated. Okay. We are purveyors of joy. These human, regardless of the circumstance, you either A, have a house, or B, you do not have a house that's burned down. They're all B. And it's terrible. And to Pete, do it with his good humor, and to do it, as he said, sort of cathartically, is amazing. And we wish him the best, and however he comes over that, because it's going to take a while. But just such a good guy. I have a feeling like he'll be on the program again at some point, because he's just too funny not to, you know.
Wow.
Like, I don't know that we need a second John Anderson episode, but we could use a second and third Pete Lee episode
sooner than later. If you can, go look it up. It's Pete Lee. That's what all of his social media is. He was on the Tonight Show recently, like the day after he lost his house. And to what John just said, he writes jokes to make it through stuff like this. And so
my house used to be white. It's now blaze orange.
Yeah. Which one's yours? The orange one. And my favorite joke, he led with it. He said, it turns out when your house burns down, try January is over. And he definitely had a wet January. And I think it's going to continue that way.
What did you say? It looked like the logo for a Guy Fieri restaurant.
Yeah.
And I guess because of that, and he said it was cathartic, and he's allowed to, to have those, if that helps when he goes through. But it's just terrible. It's horrible. And it may be out in LA, but there are people with ties to our state in Wisconsin that can use our compassion, can use our prayers, can use our thoughts and our well wishes, or just, a phone call to cheer them up, whatever it is. Check on those people.
Do it. And just for comparison purposes, I saw online the other day a map of southeast Wisconsin from the lakefront all the way through West Dallas and Wisconsin State Fair Park, I believe, up to Ozaukee County and as far south as the Racine line. I want to say that if it were here, that would be gone. And I mean, we don't need perspective, but geographically speaking, it is absolutely devastating. So thoughts or prayers to everybody out there, especially our guy Pete Lee and everybody that John just rattled off. I know Pete. That's probably it.
I bet if you sat down, you probably had some other folks, that just
probably so.
Like you said, mine just added up. I'm like, wow, more names, another name. How did I forget that guy? So anyway.
Look for ways to help Wisconsin. That's what we do best. So for John, I'm Trevor. As you were, we're good here, man. We'll see you again for episode 101. What in the world is happening? Remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button. Just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Shut up and sit down.